Tillman is going for Baltimore. Both these pitchers started the year off well. For the most part, pitched good during the season. They fell off toward the end. Tillman got a little bit back in his groove toward the end of the year. Marcus Stroman's got electric stuff. He can throw a good game again. He can put something together we can lock you down. However, I don't see that game going this way. I don't see these two pitchers getting hot. I don't see them locking it down. I see this as a classic American League slugfest. Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion for the Blue Jays. They get it going. And the Blue Jays can put up some numbers in a hurry. Some runs in a hurry. Baltimore, top 3, top 4 offense. Mark Trumbo, leader in home runs. Manny Machado, clutch. This game is in Toronto. It's going to be an epic battle. Epic battle. Between two high-powered offenses. That's the tale of two games here. You're going to see, in this game, you're going to see a lot of offense. This would be as far as being a fan that wants some excitement, this would be a game for you to watch for sure. Reason being is the National League game between the Mets and Giants looks like it's going to be a pitcher's duel. This one's going to be something in the range of like an 8-6 game. I like Toronto to win this 8-6. I like Toronto's bullpen better. The offenses are dual, both great ones. But I think at the end, Toronto's going to be standing. I think they move on. The winner of this game faces Texas. The Rangers with a fabulous season. Fabulous season. Cole Hamels anchoring that extremely talented pitching staff and an extremely talented team. But definitely, this is a great time of year for baseball. It's hard to watch baseball if you're not a fan during the regular season because it's such a long season. 162 games. But those playoffs, I'm telling you, it's some exciting stuff. Some really good stuff. Definitely tune in to both of these series. They're going to be good. They're going to have a lot of excitement. These fans in here just make it exciting. They love it. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. This Baltimore Oriole Blue Jays, this actually will be televised on TBS and Sportsnet, not ESPN. My apologies. Game will start 7:08 first pitch. Both these guys are relatively inexperienced in the postseason as Tillman has 2 starts compared to Stroman's 3. But I think the home team takes it in this one, like I said, 8-6. So, again, tune in. It's going to be fun. Now, one thing that I want to get to before I get to the LSU recap is, being the recruiting professor, I give you updates. Definitely going to talk more about this on Thursday as I do my recruiting Thursdays. But over the weekend, Dylan Moses, the number one prospect overall and the number one athlete, committed to the University of Alabama. Unfortunately, he just moved away from LSU. I initially thought, because it looked that way, it looked that he was going to take a visit to LSU. It looks like he was going to keep the rest of his visits. But old Nick in Alabama did something to his liking this weekend. Because after he went to Alabama, it was done. Sunday, Moses gets on Twitter and states that after carefully talking it over with his family, his friends, his parents, he's decided to shut his recruiting down, and he is not taking any more visits. I mean, he shut it down completely and saying Bama, 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 and then he tweets Roll Tide. So, this monster, tremendous football player, who's got some serious highlight tape, has decided to take his game to Tuscaloosa. It's kind of hard for LSU fans to take, because this guy was an LSU commit for so long. And then when that whole thing went down last year with Les Miles, that's why I thought he really loved Les Miles, because they offered him a scholarship when he was in like 8th or 9th grade. And I think he was going to come to LSU because of Les Miles. They had a good relationship. He decommitted last year when all it came about that Les was getting fired. And then all this happened here where don't know who's the coach going to be next year. There's just uncertainty there, and I think where there was uncertainty, I think it came down to LSU and Alabama. I really do. I think that he was really toying with both schools. I think he went to Florida to get out of the limelight, to get away from Louisiana, to have his recruitment not as scrutinized being in Florida as it would be here. But the kid decided that Alabama was his best option, so he took his game and shut it down. So Dylan Moses obviously won't be able to sign until February, signing day, but which is always, you never know. You never know. He's saying he's going to shut it down. Who knows? But it does look like that he's going to honor his commitment to Nick Saban in Alabama. But I would love to know what they did to solidify this guy and get him in, because he had like 3 or 4 visits scheduled. So, but hey, Alabama's, they get the number 1 class every year for a reason. They do a good job on the recruiting end of getting these guys interested and making them some promises and getting them in and rolling them out. But LSU still they've got a ton of talent. They've got commitments, and they've got a ton of talent they're going after. So it's going to be interesting. But speaking of one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit here is, I stated today on the show I was going to talk about what the Red River Shootout's going to have an effect on LSU. So, why? Okay, well, I'll tell you why. Is Charlie Strong, I believe this is it for him. I think he's in the same position that he was last year. He's got to come up with a win against Oklahoma or he's gone. He's lost 2 games that he should have won. Opened the season with Notre Dame, won that game. But he lost to California on a fluky play, but he still lost. That's a game they should have won. He had a lead against Oklahoma State, decides to go conservative. Oklahoma State comes back and beats Texas. in Stillwater. Look, Charlie Strong is a good defensive coordinator, but he's just not a head coach. He's really not. He has a few good years at Louisville, but they went on the downward slide, brought Petrino back up, and, well, you can see what Louisville's doing. And the reason I think this has an effect on LSU is if Charlie Strong, in fact, loses this game, which I think he will, he's going to get canned. And then Texas, with all their money, all their facilities, all their lore, they're going to go after Tom Herman hardcore. Herman's from that area. Obviously, has all kinds of ties. He knows what he's doing. Bringing Houston up to not only respectability, but a top 6 ranking. And it's going to be tough. This could have a big effect because he may want to stay in Texas. And with the money Texas is going to offer him, the control, the facilities, everything, he's going to have a huge recruiting base. I'm not totally throwing LSU out to where they couldn't land him, because LSU is a great job. It's a great job. Top of the line, big platform. You're in the conference and makes the most money. But, Texas has all kinds of things to offer this guy. I mean, Texas has their own network. Herman, if he wants to stay in Texas, unfortunately, LSU's going to be in a serious battle. So that's why I think this game has an effect on the future of LSU football in terms of who their head coach is going to be. So we'll see. We'll see what transpires. We'll see what happens in this Red River Shootout. Hey, Charlie Strong gets this win. They may decide to hold on to him till the end of the year. I don't know, which gives LSU time to make their play. But just because Texas, if they do fire Charlie Strong, doesn't mean LSU can't outbid Texas or throw a lot at at Tom Herman to bring him to Baton Rouge. I personally think that's LSU's number one target. Now, from what I understand, they've spoken to Art Briles as well, or his agent. That could be a public relations type issue with LSU. He's a good coach with all the stuff that went down at Baylor. It may be a situation LSU wants to avoid, but they're doing their research. They're getting their coaching search together, and they're preparing their offer. They're preparing the right guy for the system, right guy for the school. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens with LSU. What happens with their coaching search, and who are they gonna land? So it's gonna be a topsy-turvy year, and it's going to be topsy-turvy off season, but they got to get the right guy in, and they got to get him quick for recruiting purposes. And I've gone on and said before that I think they need to keep some of the coaches in place for recruiting purposes. So, but I'm going to end this Monday show with just finishing up what I talked about before. I want to go ahead and tell you SEC Players of the Week. Darius Geis, again, had 163 yards, 3 touchdowns on 17 carries, averaged 9.6 yards a carry, scored on runs of 42, 4, and 37. Helped LSU build a 21-0 halftime lead, and helped LSU rack up 418 rushing yards, the most ever by an LSU team in an SEC game. Is that what was missing? Where was this? LSU offensive line award goes to Ethan Posich, the center, leader of the LSU offensive line. Played 80 snaps with 5 knockdown blocks LSU had only 2 negative plays the entire night and averaged 7.7 yards on 82 plays.